Postponing death as long as possible at any cost is written into our response to COVID-19. But who's to say it's worth it to not have weddings and dances and group hugs and carnivals and concerts and all the things we used to do that we've sacrificed on the altar of safety? That's Charles Eisenstein.
Oh, really?
This week is at it again. He has a new promotional video announcing a 9-day course called Political Hope. And I want to suggest to our listeners that we are witnessing the emergence of a shiny new COVID-era grift. I'm going to call it know-nothing populism. I know that sounds unkind, it sounds mean, but it's based on the express idea that science and reason are not reliable paths to truth. Eisenstein is somehow sure-footed in the slippery stance that essentially wisdom lies in not knowing anything. I'm quoting again, wisdom is only possible when we let go of identifying with being right. So take my new course and learn how to unlock polarized conversations by letting in new truths that unravel your entire worldview. Now, this pitch is going out for a course on a website that links yoga, alternative medicine, and political activism, and it speaks pretty clearly to a demographic that tends to be overwhelmingly socially liberal. I think of these folks as the Obama voters who are now vulnerable to conspiritualist COVID denialism, doubting the veracity of science as ever being apolitical, and who lately are learning to savor Q-infused ingredients in their immune-supporting smoothies. Charles says his 15 or 20 years contemplating the question, what is the origin of the wrongness in the world, have apparently revealed deeper answers about what has to change that are beyond the reach of a mere partisan victory. The bigger terror, he intones, is not what happens if my candidate loses, but what if my candidate wins and nothing changes? Now, the course is being offered on the website onecommune.com, where founder Jeff Krasno also interviewed him for their podcast. From listening, my sense is that Krasno is giving Eisenstein a platform based on a perception of him as a legitimate intellectual. He asks thoughtfully framed questions around geopolitics, science, and the pandemic crisis, and gives him generous opportunities to differentiate what he is saying from the most outlandish conspiracy theories, only to be met with Charles's thin analysis and weakly argued talking points. But how do you know those are just conspiracy theories, says our poster boy for freshman skepticism. Eisenstein, recently quoted by Second Lady Ivanka, stakes out the oddly relativist and indeed alt-right position that the left has now become authoritarian in its embrace of quarantine and insistence that they are following what he calls a dogmatic angle on what is essentially unknowable science, based merely in narrative warfare. True to his style, reality must be somewhere in the middle. And because the supposedly religious dogmas of science have failed to create utopia, now our new hero of know-nothing populism can arise. Surely, he reflects, it is grasping at straws to explain Japan's effectiveness at containing the pandemic with the boring old go-to explanations about contact tracing and cultural collectivism's ability to follow the rules around masks and social distancing. Of course, says Eisenstein, we don't really know what is going on here. He borrows from Chopra and Sheldrake in claiming that science has grown into an arrogant protection of quasi-religious dogmas. Good luck, he says, from within the scientific establishment trying to study UFOs or to find evidence for alternative cures for coronavirus. You'll find hostility if you come up with a study that demonstrates that Artemisia, as many African nations are saying, is an effective treatment for COVID-19. He goes on to repeat Trumpian talking points, complete with the opening, some people are saying if you test more people, you're going to have more cases. Some people are saying if you test more people, you're going to have more cases. So he continues, I ask doctors I know, and more of them are saying the numbers are inflated by over-reporting. I saw a graph from Florida with plummeting death rate, so who knows? I don't know. Let me just say, I am increasingly skeptical of the official narratives. My worry is that this is conspiracy light. It's perhaps even QAnon light, and it is a gateway drug. If the problem with liberal politics, remember this free course is called Political Hope, is that we are not open enough to take right-wing talking points on board and have our worldview unravel in a kind of fetishized, spiritually profound revelation of knowing nothing, rejecting the science, and just asking the questions, then where is any inoculation against the deluge of conspirituality and political obfuscation? The lines are blurring between right and left, asserts Eisenstein. Well, Charlie, that's partly because of the giant eraser you're holding gleefully with both of your opportunistic hands. This week, I noticed too a real increase in yoga wellness circle posting about pedophilia and child sex trafficking. These, of course, are hugely important concerns, right? Who's not in favor of cracking down on this abomination? But make no mistake about the drive to frame this election around Trump as the hero who saves and supports these kids, and the Democrats as either criminally negligent or in cahoots with the elite, pedophile, satanic child blood drinkers, as we have heard David Avocado Wolf now claims. Ivanka and Fox News and 45 himself all sent out the same tweet on Tuesday about budgeting $35 million to 73 organizations in 33 states to provide resources for sex trafficking survivors. How wonderful. But this is deliberately delivered red meat to the Q loyalists, and it's an attempt to keep influencing the politically naive into seeing 45 as a heroic figure, finally saving the children, when supposedly the Democrats don't care, even though funding for all of those kinds of initiatives went up under Obama and we're at higher levels than they are now. Or even worse, the grotesque and ludicrous slander that the Democrats themselves are involved in satanic blood-drinking child sacrifice. Meanwhile, POTUS publicly wishes actual child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell well as she awaits trial in the Southern District of New York. Maxwell, of course, the decades-long intimate companion of Trump associate and friend Jeffrey Epstein, for whom she allegedly procured, groomed, and trafficked the underage girls photographed at parties with Donald Trump himself.